John Vandermosten is our resident analyst, whether he knows it or not. He has now become our resident stock analyst, life science analyst in the biotech side. He works for Zacks Small Cap Research as well as his own newsletter called Unboxing Biotech. He is a certified financial analyst. He is a life sciences analyst, and he has just covered the biggest life sciences convention or conference in the world, or it should be in the United States, the J.P. Morgan Chase conference, and he joins us again right here on the Big Biz Show. John, so here's what I want to say. Last year in 2024, there was that big JPM speech that came out and said, look, we've got a tough 2 years in biotech. 2024 is going to be the year, and although it's going to be tough to raise capital in the first quarter, it's all going to open up, and it indeed opened up for about 6 weeks. and then it closed right up again. And biotech once again had a horrible 2024. I would say for a majority of the mid cap to small cap stocks in that range. What 2025? What was your takeaway from J.P. Morgan? And what do you think? I mean, you're at the tip of the spear of all this. I mean, you follow companies like Bristol Myers and some of the bigger companies. But what does the overall landscape look like in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think just to comment on what you first said about last year, we started off the year, I think, with a couple good M&A deals, but it never followed through. And I think M&A disappointed. And, for the smaller cap names, which is where I spend most of my time, you really need M&A to drive prices, because that's the exit strategy for a lot of these smaller companies. But I would say, for this year so far, we saw, by my count, there were 5 deals that took place last week, which was the same week as JP Morgan Healthcare Conference. And, I think we're off to a good start. We'll have to see. But, Sully, I know it's going to seem crazy, but I think we should talk about schizophrenia.
Okay.
And the biggest...
listen, I'm sorry, NRX Pharma is one of the folks that we cover here that I want you to start taking a look at. But schizophrenia and suicidal ideation are at the top of the scale. I heard that everyone was talking about those type of life sciences over there at the conference. So talk about schizophrenia.
Yeah. Well, that was the biggest deal that took place was Johnson & Johnson's bid for Intracellular for $14.6 billion.
Wow.
Which is pretty big. And if our viewers are paying attention for a long time, and probably not many are to schizophrenia, but there was about a period of 10 years where nothing was done, no deals took place. And then about 13 months ago, in December 2023, we saw 2 big deals back then, and that was Bristol Myers for Karuna, and their drug that they bought actually got approved after they bought Karuna. And then there was another one for Cerevel. That drug didn't do so well, but both of these were for multi-billion dollars, and I think that really means that a lot of the development companies out there in the space could be pretty favorably positioned. And we cover a name called Reviva Pharmaceuticals with its drug brilaroxazine, which is in really late phase 3 trials right now, which I think could really benefit from this trend that we've seen in M&A.
I think do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. So John, are you seeing companies looking at these companies pre-approval, or are they waiting to go through the FDA approval, get the FDA approval, and then do the acquisition?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think there's been a lot of risk aversion from the larger names over the last several years. And I think that's actually backfired. And let me give you one example, because they pay a lot more when there's more certainty, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of paying a lot less and taking a little bit more risk, they pay a lot more. And sometimes it doesn't go the way they hoped. But the 2 deals that I mentioned from 13 months ago, there was Bristol Myers for Karuna. They paid $14 billion for this asset. It got approved. And it was about 3 or 4 months away from the FDA's approval. So very, very late stage. Not approved yet, but almost there. And then the other one was also in about that same stage, which was, just ready to get a word from the FDA on it. So that's what I've seen, very, very few that are willing to spend money on a phase 2 asset out there. And they're really willing to wait, or they want to wait till it's approved or it's close to being approved.
Hey, John. So FDA approved roughly 55 drugs last year in 2024. That's about 4.5 drugs a month. Is that scale? Is that about right? That seems low to me. Is that about good?
Yeah, those are novel drugs. I mean, there are probably some more approvals beyond that that are reformulations of already approved drugs. But those are pretty high numbers if you look historically. If you go back. We had a slowdown during COVID because the FDA was focused on the vaccine. and there was travel restrictions that prevented them from doing their work. But that's about at the high level, about 55 or so.
Yeah. Huh.
And I think we've seen about that amount for the last couple of years.
The thing that we've talked about on the program here is, I think Mary's the one who actually brought up the GLP-1 drugs. I mean, they've been a big deal for 2 years. If you think of in terms of Wegovy, Saxenda, Triceratops.
Well, now they're saying
whatever it's called.
now they're saying that they're good for even sleep apnea and other
Well,
things besides just. Well, first it was diabetes, and then now it's weight loss, and then it's all this other stuff too.
Okay, so
and cardiovascular health too.
Yeah,
wait a second. Wait.
And then Alzheimer's was another one.
Wait a minute. If they're weight loss drugs, if you lose weight, diabetes goes down, heart rate's better, and your sleep apnea goes away. Is that just a natural progression, or are these individually addressing these things?
Yeah, that's right. That's why the sleep apnea indication got approved, because it helps you lose weight, and when you have lower weight, you're less likely to suffer from sleep apnea. So yeah, direct correlation there.
What are you looking to for 2025 is kind of being peaking up as probably as tough.
Yeah, what are my picks? I see a few interesting areas. The M&A in schizophrenia is pretty promising. Radiopharmaceuticals is another interesting area. There were 2 radiopharmaceuticals deals that took place last week.
What's radiopharmaceutical mean? What's that specific?
Oh, so a lot of those are used for imaging. So if you get a PET scan, you'll take a radio tracer, and it's able to bind to whatever they're trying to trace, and then they'll put you through the scanner, and the radiologist can read where where it's bound, and it can help find cancers. Prostate cancer is a big one.
Yeah.
But the most exciting area here is actually in Alzheimer's, because as you may know, there were 2 Alzheimer's drug approved over the last 2 years, Leqembi and Kisunla, and that has really opened up the demand for seeing if people actually have Alzheimer's, how much beta amyloid or tau they have in their brain, and if they're appropriate for the drug. So that has opened up a whole new market over here for the for the imaging side of things, which is radiopharmaceuticals.
Well, John, we're going to have you back next week. Always a pleasure. His Twitter handle @VanJohn10, @VanJohn10, of course, Zach Small Cap Research. And look at Unboxing Biotech, our good buddy John Vandermost in there.